What's going on, guys? On January 21, 2025, four men stood in the White House Roosevelt Room and announced a project that sounds like science fiction, a $500 billion AI infrastructure build-out called the Stargate project. The men were President Donald Trump, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, SoftBank Chairman Masayoshi Son, and Oracle Chairman Larry Ellison. The goal? Build up to 10 gigawatts of AI data center capacity in the United States by 2029. That's roughly the peak electricity load of New York City, dedicated almost entirely to artificial intelligence. Today I am doing a full deep dive into Stargate, who is involved, where the sites are, how the money works, what is actually built so far, and the risks nobody talks about. Not investment advice. Stargate is not a government program, even though it was announced at the White House. It is a private joint venture, incorporated in Delaware as Stargate LLC. The four named equity partners at launch were OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX, an Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth-backed investment firm tied to Mubadala and G42. The structure is deliberate. SoftBank took financial responsibility, OpenAI took operational responsibility, Oracle brought the cloud and data center expertise, and MGX brought international capital. The initial technology partners were ARM, Microsoft, Nividia, Oracle, and OpenAI. Think of it as a vertically integrated AI factory chain, capital from SoftBank and Abu Dhabi, chips from Nividia, cloud infrastructure from Oracle, and the customer almost entirely OpenAI. The headline number is $500 billion, but let's be careful with that. At launch the four founding partners committed $100 billion. Then in September 2025 OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank announced 5 new U.S. sites, bringing the planned commitment to over $400 billion. The $500 billion figure is the 4-year aspirational ceiling. In March 2026, SoftBank secured a $40 billion unsecured bridge loan, the largest AI-focused corporate loan in history, syndicated by J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Mizuho, SMBC, and MUFG. Of that, $30 billion is a follow-on investment in OpenAI through SoftBank Vision Fund 2, drawn in tranches across 2026. So the money is real, but it is also leverage. Elon Musk famously criticized the project in mid-2025, saying, quote, "They simply don't have the money." Reports from the information in early 2026 also described internal disagreements between OpenAI and SoftBank that delayed some decisions. The honest read: real capital has been raised, real construction is happening, but the $500 billion headline is part funding plan and part marketing. The flagship site is Stargate I in Abilene, Texas. It sits on roughly 1,000 acres at the Lancium Clean campus, built physically by Crusoe Energy, leased to Oracle, and dedicated almost entirely to OpenAI compute. The planned capacity is 1.2 gigawatts across about 4 million square feet. As of early 2025 around 200 megawatts were deployed. By April 2026 Epic AI estimated about 0.3 gigawatts operational. First 2 buildings were energized by September 2025 and began running OpenAI training and inference workloads on Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Nvidia GB200 racks arrived in June 2025. But expansion beyond 1.2 gigawatts was reportedly halted or capped in March 2026 because power grid delays exceeded a year. On September 23, 2025, the partners announced 5 additional U.S. sites, bringing planned capacity to nearly 7 gigawatts. Reported states include Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, and possibly New Mexico. International expansion includes UAE Stargate in Abu Dhabi, announced May 2025, backed by G42 and MGX, targeting up to 1 gigawatt with a 200 megawatt first phase expected in 2026. Stargate is not just real estate. It is a specific technology stack. The compute comes from Nvidia GB200 systems. OpenAI and Oracle reportedly plan to deploy 64,000 GB200 GPUs at Abilene by the end of 2026, in phases, with 16,000 expected by summer 2026. The cloud layer is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OpenAI says it has used the site for early training and inference workloads on next-generation frontier research. But the binding constraint is power. A 10-gigawatt AI compute build is the equivalent of roughly 10 large nuclear reactors. The U.S. grid cannot absorb that quickly. Abilene's expansion was already slowed by grid delays exceeding a year. That is why Stargate and other AI data center projects are exploring on-site natural gas plants, nuclear small modular reactors, solar, wind, and battery storage. The Lancium Clean Campus branding suggests renewable and storage ambitions, but at this scale, dispatchable base load power, likely gas or nuclear, becomes unavoidable. Stargate is also a political project. Announcing it at the White House made it a flagship of the second Trump administration's AI industrial policy. The strategic logic is simple: keep frontier AI compute inside the United States, reduce dependence on foreign chip and energy supply chains, and outcompete China. But there are complications. First, Abu Dhabi capital. MGX, G42, and the broader UAE sovereign footprint are deeply involved. That raises national security questions about foreign ownership in the most sensitive AI infrastructure. Second, local opposition. Abilene officials promised economic revitalization, and jobs are being created. But local reporting from KWBU, Texas Tribune, and Time describes a housing crisis, strained infrastructure, and tension between promises and reality. Third, environmental pushback. Nationwide, nearly 60 data centers are reportedly planning their own gas plants to bypass grid limits. In Texas, at least 15 gas plants tied to data centers are planned. That is not a Stargate-only issue, but it is the world Stargate is operating in. So what is the honest investment angle? If Stargate actually gets built anywhere close to scale, the obvious winners are the arms dealers: Nividia for GPUs, Oracle for cloud and data center revenue, Crusoe and Lancium and Vantage for construction, and utility and gas producers for power demand. SoftBank wins if OpenAI's valuation keeps climbing, but it is also taking on enormous leverage. The risks are just as obvious. 1. Funding execution. $500 billion is a staggering number and the partners are borrowing heavily. 2. Power constraints. The U.S. grid is already the bottleneck. 3. Demand risk. What if AI training demand plateaus or shifts to smaller, more efficient models? 4. Concentration. OpenAI is the main customer. Any slowdown at OpenAI hits Stargate utilization. 5. Politics. Foreign capital, local opposition, and environmental rules could all slow or redirect the build. My take: Stargate is real enough to matter and speculative enough to be dangerous. It is the physical embodiment of the AI capex boom. Treat it as a high-conviction, high-risk infrastructure transformation, not a guaranteed winner. If you found this useful, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Not investment advice.